Hey everybody, it's Evan with Let's Do This, and today we're going to remove and reseal the camper trim. So let's get started. First, I would check on the condition of your current butyl tape. If it's cracked like this, if you see any signs of water getting through, if your boards underneath are rotted, you might have to fix that issue first before you fix the big issue of sealing up your camper. You can definitely seal it up first and then take care of your wood if it's a dry rot or a current wet spot. You can always replace that wood. I have videos on replacing rotten wood in a pop-up. First, you want to take the screws out. There should be one screw on each piece of vinyl on each end, the vinyl inlay, and then unscrewing the corner brackets there. Those are two separate pieces of vinyl inlay, one that goes up, and then once it goes that 90 degree, that actually has a separate piece of vinyl up there. So this one pulls out. It's separate from the bigger piece, so I don't tear it off. It's actually just a separate piece. This took a bit of scraping, get that old butyl tape out of there. Someone tried repairing it already, had some silicone in there, so I had to scrape that off. But make sure to clean off all of your trim, get the butyl tape off. You're not going to reuse this vinyl, it's cheap. I'm going to post the vinyl inlay that I used. Make sure to take all of your screws off. I just line them up where they go on top of the camper. So then that way, if you have one left over, you know you probably forgot one. So, pro tip. I've done this quite a few times. I had an old project camper that I rehabbed, converted it to solar for the battery, did a lot of work to it, sold it for a profit. This camper I ended up picking up on a auction website for $750. It's a 2008 Jayco J-Series Baja edition. They go for about $4,000, and all it needed was clean up the roof and redo all these seals. It did not have any rot to the boards, so I got a good pick on this. Make sure, try not to bend that trim, otherwise it's not going to go on very good. And after you get it off, you want to scrape as much of that old butyl tape off as you can get. I just use my painter's tool. It does as good a job scraping as any. Otherwise just a putty knife will work. So it takes a fair amount of scraping. I think this, I did it in a night. Might have taken 2 hours for the whole project, but it's going to be really hard to mess this up. So this is definitely a project you can take on yourself. I would have no idea what a camper shop would charge to fix this, but a little time consuming scraping all that old butyl tape out. And as you can tell, the butyl tape wasn't in that bad of condition. It didn't have a lot of water wear in it. The wood looked good at the seam. You might want to go with a thicker butyl tape as well. This is a 3/4 inch. This is the stuff that I used. You might want to go with a thicker, like a 1 inch or 1.5, and you might be able to use one strip, but I ended up having to use 2 strips, and then I made sure to pinch it together. And once you lay it on, I lay on my second strip to make sure to get it all covered where the trim is going to go on, and then I kind of pinch it together where it seams. And it's pretty sticky stuff. It stretches really good. When you put on your trim again, if there's any gaps, you can always press more butyl tape up into there. Butyl tape is good because it's waterproof. It stretches with your camper when it goes down the road. There's some sway in it. On the other side, at the beginning of the video, you saw me scraping out the old butyl tape. What I ended up doing there, since this side was in such good condition, I knew the other side had to have been. So I scrape out the old butyl tape and I laid a RV silicone bead down. So I'm kind of testing this. I'm going to see what side holds up longer. It's my loss if the silicone leaks. But I'm trying out silicone on my one side and then the butyl tape on the other. I suggest using the butyl tape cover to press down on the tape, and then it won't stick as much. So putting the piece back on, And then I put 1 or 2 screws in first just to make sure it doesn't move around too much as I'm doing the rest of it. It's going to flex a little bit when you pull it off, so just make sure the screw holes line up. You don't want to be putting new holes into your roof when you're putting this on. It looks like it's lining up pretty good. So I go ahead and put it all on, make sure it pulls down, it's gripping onto something. That might be a sign that your roof or something might be rotted if you don't feel the trim pulling in. And then you might have to look at what condition your wood is in if you feel like it's not grabbing anything. So now it's time for the vinyl inlay. You want to kind of pinch it in. This is for the bottom, the shorter piece. So I just have my old one still. So I'm just cutting it to size. And then once you put this in, you pinch the ends. This is what I used. It's usually 3/4 for most pop-ups and RVs. But make sure to confirm before you buy a roll how big of one you need. So once they go in, you pinch in both sides, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of like just a drip rail, extra protectant to make sure that moisture has somewhere to go. Goes in fairly easy. But you can definitely tell the old from the new because the old stuff's pretty brittle. You can bend it and it'll crack. That's when you know it's time to replace that inlay. And you're just kind of that butyl tape kind of hanging out there. That's the way it was when I pulled everything apart. That's going to get covered with that corner piece there, right there. That presses in and screws through the vinyl. Holds that in place. And then I just work it in the whole way down the camper. Pretty easy. Again, this is definitely a project I believe anybody can do. So don't be afraid if you think your trailer is going to leak or if you want to park it and not have to worry about it. Go ahead and just redo the trim to do both. Again, this side is the only side I really took off and redid with butyl tape. The other side I scraped off all the old butyl tape and sealed it with a RV caulk that's flexible and waterproof. So I'm going to see if that holds, because that sure saved a lot of time. Just I used a roto tool to scrape off all the old tape once I scraped off what I could. Putting the screws back in the corner here. And then in the gap, I do press more butyl tape up into there. I don't really get that on camera, but I made sure there's no gaps anywhere. I did this again in my old camper, and it worked out really well. Held out all the water. This is what it should look like. You should have some butyl tape coming out, squishing out the sides. That shows it's a good seal. You're not going to get any water traveling in there. And look at that. It's brand new. I'll be doing more work to this camper as we go. So if this is something you're into, working on your pup camper, your pop-up, give me a follow, like, subscribe, and hopefully pick up some tips, save you some money, and save you some work. Talk to you later. Thanks.